What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Redemption with Jayden, and welcome to the season of Unlimited. This is the first season that Unlimited is going to be a structured format. We don't have all of the official documents and everything yet for official rules, ban list, all that stuff that's out for the limited and unlimited formats that are new, kind of taking the place of what was classic and rotation. But unlimited is going to be supported at all tournament levels, and as far as prize support and official, it's an official category, even at the state, regional, and national levels. So that's going to be very exciting. And the unlimited card pool consists of all the cards in existence that have ever been printed in Redemption, except for Daniel from Cloud of Witnesses, because that's shuffling Son of God from your discard pile back into your deck. I can understand why that's not necessarily a healthy thing for the game, for any format. So that's he got the ban and hammer. Maybe they could have just errated him to say accept a dominant, but whatever. I mean, the ban is cleaner. Nobody was really wanting to play him anyway, right? Probably. So anyway, for this video, what I'm going to be doing is I've got a bunch of unlimited cards, or relevant cards here that you won't have seen in rotation. So, of course, most of them are Scrolls cards, but there are a couple that were on the rotation ban list that are now going to be available to use in the unlimited format. And I'm not going to be taking a whole lot of time to do this. I did do a video, I think it was a couple of years ago now, maybe even 3 years ago now, of the Scrolls cards that you should know. You could go back and watch that video. You probably would get a little bit of a deeper dive into some of these cards. I'll put a link to that in the video description. But also, part of the reason I'm doing this video is because some of the things for this format have changed since then. I mean, even though this format barely existed at that point, there are some things that have changed in the sense that either some of the cards have gotten reprints in the roots sets, or some of the cards have gotten reprints in the regular sets and just gotten straight upgrades. So Woman with the Bez was a decent scroll card that now is just completely and utterly replaced by the new Woman with the Bez, just because there's no reason where you're no scenario, I guess, in which you'd want to play the old one that can play a Black Judge's enhancement if Tower of the Bez is in play, over the new one, which just chump blocks for days. So there's examples of that, and there's also Eli's Son Advice is a good example of a Roots card that there's a Scrolls version, but it got reprinted in Roots, so it's not really worth mentioning here because it has a version that you might already be familiar with that's actually better, or strictly better, or it's there are a few differences and maybe a few scenarios in which you might want to play the other one instead of the new one. So here I have 70 cards, and now that I'm looking at it, I see that I actually have Pentecost in here twice. So I guess we have 69 cards that we're going to be looking at, and then I've got 18 in the reserve for a total of 87. The reserve here are kind of like the honorable mentions of cards that I didn't think quite made the cut. I was trying to go for 70 because that's the new maximum deck size, and I'm not going back now. So here we are. Sorry if that offends anybody, then I didn't get a full 70, So anyway, these are the cards I'm going to be talking about that I think are possible that you would see in Unlimited. Of course, everything's possible, but these are the ones that you maybe want to be aware of if you're planning to play Unlimited. Whether or not you're planning to actually use any of these cards or not, you want to be aware of them so that if you see them, then you know what they do. So let's start off with the dominance. Angel of the Lord. Everybody knows what that does. There are rotation versions of it. However, in Unlimited, there's a nativity version of it. This one is Luke 2:9. So if you're playing a nativity deck, which still, seems like it would be good in Unlimited, similar to in Limited, then you can use a nativity Angel of the Lord. The Burial Lost Soul, or Dominant, buries a Lost Soul, more literally, I guess, than the new version, which just underdecks Lost Souls. This one discards it. I think it's relevant because the 2 and 3 liner are in here, and we'll talk about those in a little bit, but there are enough Lost Souls that your opponent will be playing that would be nice to not have to deal with. That Burial is actually just kind of good in that way. You can, you can bury their 2 liner if you want to, or if you're playing Soul Hide or something, then you can bury your own Lost Soul. You can play a Soul Denial type of deck where you're exchanging Lost Souls with your opponent and then shuffling theirs away, and then you can also use Burial to add to that. I think that's a reasonable strategy. There's not a whole lot of exchange effects, but enough. We've got Falling Away, which I think probably is one of the classic cards that people are most familiar with or have heard the most about. I wonder if I can make this a little bit bigger for you guys. Let's do that. Yeah. Falling Away, that now I'm like almost covering it up, but I'm just barely over it. We're making adjustments mid video because I don't have a whole lot of time, so I'm not going to re-record, so my apologies for that, but here we are. Falling Away is the one that basically says -1 to your score, which is not something that we have experienced in Rotation Redemption. We don't have that ability. It is very strong, of course, and there's a little bit of like an arms race sort of thing between players running Falling Away, and then do you put Guardian in your deck? Because if I draw my Guardian and I also draw my Falling Away, and you don't draw either of yours before mine, then I'm just automatically 2 Lost Souls ahead of you, basically. So they're kind of like drawing Son of God Second Coming, or it's like there's it's not quite as drastic, I guess, or as guaranteed. But if you draw yours before your opponent draws theirs, it's just very swingy. Has a very swingy potential, especially with the 2 and 3 liner in the format, because Falling Away on the 2 liner, or on the doubler, takes away 2 from their score, and then they have to rescue the other half again, or before you play Burial, or before you underdeck it with Sheol, or something, shuffle it away with Death and the Righteous, something like that. So very strong card. I expect to see this in a lot of decks. I also expect to see a lot of, not a lot of Guardian, but a lot of ways to try to stop this. The new Golden Lampstand from Roots 2 is a good one. Jay said on the phone the other day that he thinks that'll be a staple for the format. It restricts evil dominance and negates toss abilities and cannot be negated. And it's also a temple artifact, so it just seems like it'll be good anti-Falling Away play. Ark of the Covenant can also be good, but it's not CBN. So as far as artifacts, we've got Asher Pole as one. The old one says that blocking any OT hero, evil enhancements cannot be negated. So I think the fact that it's an idol, so it can be activated by all the idol activators, and the fact that Old Testament themes are quite strong in this format. There are some disciples, martyrs builds that I think will be around, but a lot of the themes will be Old Testament, and being able to activate Asher Pole, and then play your Struck and Scattered, or play your Allowed to be Trampled, or whatever. It's going to be very good, especially in a black defense where you've got like Forces Arise and that kind of thing. You're already activating other idols. Hidden Treasures. This is going to be part of a theme of these cards here. Play first abilities. There are definitely more of them among scroll cards, and they are very strong. So, and I say play first, meaning that not necessarily with both characters in battle already, but at least for the hero side, that's going to be playing before your opponent has a chance to block, which is incredibly strong, especially if anybody's familiar with like ETAOC, that whole thing where you play Authority of Christ before they get a chance to block. You take out all their evil characters in territory, and especially in the late game, or at especially in older formats when people maybe didn't have enough space, or like over time you just have more and more evil characters in your territory. Then yeah, that was a very strong play. There are lots of other new fun cards that you can do pre-block now that I think will definitely see some play with hidden treasures. Impartial Judgment is one that comes to mind. It's just an enhancement. So as long as you have a green brigade prophet with another brigade of the card you want to play, let's just say it's Noah the Righteous, for example. Yeah, he can play any good enhancement before your opponent gets a chance to block. Now, Magic Charms, another good one that you will probably see. This one is more useful, I guess, than the new one, in the sense that it can be just put in your reserve and then taken and activated with Profane Daughters, and then used during battle to capture up to 2 human heroes. Doesn't have to be the ones in battle, but if you block with Profane Daughters and activate it on her, they do have the option in Special Initiative to play like interrupt the battle or something like that. Carcasses, one that not like even in Scrolls it wasn't that big of a deal, but I think it does have some merit now because a few things like Endless Treasures can go get it. There are other things that interact with Black Curses that weren't around at this point, or kind of when this card was released in the Priest set. But the one thing that really came to mind was the new Ishbibanab, who can equip a weapon from deck. So the fact that you basically have a play first ability, so to speak, on him by being able to equip this weapon, just seems like Carcasses might have a good fit with him, where you can just go and equip your Lamai Spear or Goliath Spear, any of the ones that discard this card to discard a hero. Then yeah, just seems pretty good. We'll talk about Philistine Chariots and Horses later, but equipping that and then playing a Struck and Scattered or something seems pretty good too. Or no, Struck and Scattered is underdecked, right? But Smashed Opponent, also good. Any mass discard ability. Then Covenant with Death. This was a big one in Scrolls and in Classic, I guess. The 2018, was it 2018 or 2019 Nationals winning deck, piloted by John Early, was a Covenant with Death deck, focusing on green and gold. Some of the heroes that you see here that are cannot be negated, and then you're kind of built around shutting down your opponent's deck. So basically, the negate characters cannot be negated part is the big thing. It's symmetrical, but as long as you're built around it, then you're going to be in good shape. And it was especially hard to deal with at that point, because it also restricts players from playing enhancements unless the character is opposed in battle. Then it's still going to be a little bit hard to deal with in rotation, or I guess in unlimited, with the non-Scrolls card pool. But I don't know that it's going to be like a huge thing. I expect that if a deck is really built around this, though, that they're going to have Covenant with Death, they're going to have Holy of Holies, and they're going to kind of layer those effects. So I don't know, maybe Honeypot. I mean, they'll have Covenant with Death and Holy of Holies, and then Pot of Mana and Bound to the Law. So lots of duplication, I guess, on those effects, and I think that it could be very strong. Rain Becomes Dust. There is a new one, but it's not. It is symmetrical. This one is not. However, this one's not very useful in battle. I don't know that it will see a whole lot of play. It's kind of squishy. It's easy to disrupt, but it is very strong. If you can keep it active and your opponent doesn't have a way to deal with it, you can make it so that basically they just don't want to draw. It also doesn't work against hand protection. So and specifically hand protection, deck protection doesn't matter, I don't believe, because it triggers off of the draw, so the cards are already in their hand. They're revealed instead of going to their hand. So maybe it is a deck protection. I don't know. A lot of times they're together, so it doesn't really matter. But as long as they have one or both of those, then it's not going to do anything. Throne of David. This one is very near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. It was the key, well, one of the key cards, I guess. It was the namesake card for a lot of decks in the 20 probably 17 to 2020, well, to rotation era, is kind of where I don't know if that's the exact start year. Jay can correct me on that, but around that time frame is when it kind of started growing in popularity, and then kind of becoming the namesake for the deck archetype of a throne deck. And again, it's kind of it's the play first thing, but also it's just the whole deck that it was actually built around was the kind of the big deal, which we'll talk about some of those cards later. But you got to draw a bunch of cards, and then you got to play an enhancement, even though you had like a big banding chain in the battle. But the play part didn't even matter all that much, because a lot of time you had Samuel in who was negating play abilities. Really, it was just everything else that was built around it to set up very quickly, which is why the card that was manned was Samuel, not Throne of David. So, but still, I mean, I think that Throne is reasonable to play in the format. So you will probably see it. Gates of Jerusalem. There is a new one of these, but it's good, and this one kind of does similar things, except it is just protects both, or protects evil ones, I guess, just from opponent's cards. And then if one blocks, its special ability cannot be negated, and you may draw a card. The downside of this is that you have to have them in territory, so you can't really like surprise your opponent with any CBN abilities. But there are some decent Evil Kings and Queens of Judah, even ones that have been printed since classic cards and since rotation, that I think are noteworthy to make cannot be negated. A lot of the give something to protect lost souls or to protect meek lost souls. I think those are reasonable to expect in the format or to play. I don't think meek lost souls are going to be very common or popular, but some of the new Roots 2 stuff in brown makes them look kind of fun, at least. So there could be some use for Gates of Jerusalem here. Just having like a CBN soul protection, or some of them the old Manasseh, you've got hero removal that can be good when it's CBN. Even just like King Rehoboam, the old one, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but also the new one that negates characters and enhancements, making him CBN can be pretty good. So I think it's reasonable to expect this could be out there. Nazareth, there is a reprint, and it works very much the same as the site, but because one of them is a site and one of them is a fortress, you can have both in your deck. So if you're building a deck with Nazareth, with King Signet Ring, stuff like that, then you can run, I guess, is it Hezekiah's Ring? I don't know what the Roots 2 reprint is called, but basically Hezekiah's Signet Ring reprint. If you want to layer those types of effects, you can run both copies of Nazareth. This one's a site, so it can be easier to get out with some abilities, or I guess Covenant with David can do both, but there are some cards that let you play sites from your deck, and so you can get Nazareth out either way, sites or fortresses. All right, then Golgotha, not one that I expect to see a whole lot, but I think that there could be some kind of fun little combos. I don't know, this probably could have been an honorable mention, to be honest, but you can put an evil enhancement, or I guess a skull icon card, from your hand or discard pile on Golgotha anytime during battle, so whether you're attacking or blocking. And then it just says anti-characters of that brigade cannot be ignored. It's protection from withdraw, but that's not really the important part. It just says return that card to its previous location at the end of turn. So if you place an enhancement on there and then Golgotha gets moved somewhere, let's say they're bounced to your hand or shuffled back into your deck, the evil enhancement follows it. So it's just kind of a cheeky little way to recur enhancements from your discard pile. I think there are some ways to like infinitely do it, but things that come to mind are like Death of Unrighteous, which shuffles it, or if you do it during your attack and then in your discard phase, you can play a Lost Child Found to bounce the enhancement back to your hand. It's kind of like the combo with Four Living Creatures and um, what's the the new orange curse? Oh boy, that's gonna bug me. So we gotta look that up. Orange curse for us, where you place an orange gospel enhancement from discard pile on a hero for 1 turn, and then once it's placed there, you just bounce it. And if you place it for living creatures, it just bounces itself. So kind of like that. That's probably an easier way to do it than Golgotha, but I don't know. Maybe people will be playing some sites to lock players out. All right. We've got the CBP Lost Soul, moving on to the very few Lost Souls that we included here. It says, unless the Covenant is in play, the first evil enhancement you play each battle cannot be prevented by a good card. So kind of like a Golgotha type of effect. Speaking of Golgotha, but the new Golgotha, which makes your first enhancement CBP by, uh, or if it's used by a New Testament evil character. This one works for all evil characters. It's one of the few Lost Souls that is considered a modifier. So the ability is a modifier, so it cannot be negated inherently. And so if you're playing a deck that's just looking to negate Lost Souls, you can use this one. You can use Humble. You can use Wicked. You can use the doubler, the liners. We'll talk about in a second, and I think that's it. But those are the ones that are all the Lost Souls that basically cannot be negated because they're either modifiers or they have an errata which says that they cannot be negated. Just having CBP first enhancement is pretty good. It doesn't work like Golgotha though, in the sense that this one is only cannot be prevented by a good card. So if you block with King of Tyrus or Sapphira or something, they'll still prevent your own evil enhancements if it's an evil card. Next up, we've got the Pigs Lost Soul. This was a big one for the Love at First Sight combo deck. It was the reason why Love at First Sight got the errata to say just cannot be negated instead of cannot be negated by an evil card, because this is a neutral card that was preventing the draw ability on Love at First Sight. So you play it, you shuffle your opponent's hand, and they don't get to draw cards because the draw was prevented by pigs. So I don't think that there are going to be any combos like that with pigs that I can think of, so we don't really have to worry about that. The closest you can get, I guess, is with the Old School and New Beginning and the Thorns Lost Soul. So if Thorns is out protecting pigs from shuffle, then pigs will still be out when you get to the draw ability on a New Beginning, and will still be preventing that draw ability. So this was part of the Type 2 combo deck I used in 2021 at Nationals for Type 2 multiplayer, where I had a couple copies of Pigs, a couple copies of Thorns, and was just trying to play a New Beginning, reset the game where nobody got to draw cards, and then I got to take a turn, draw 3 cards, hopefully find a hero or a star ability that says reveal hand, you can take a hero from deck, because I was using a bunch of those, and then I would just walk into whoever because they didn't have a hand or a territory or anything else. So I think the Pig's Lost Soul can be decent, similar to Rain Becomes Dust, where you can, but I guess it is symmetrical, so you do have to worry about it for yourself. But if you have CBP or CBN draw abilities, you just focus on having draw abilities on your heroes, like Matthew or something like that, then you can just kind of slow down your opponent with their drawing enhancements and their evil characters. So it's not like amazing, but I think it will be viable, or it's one of the few that will actually has potential to be used over some of the new Lost Souls that we've gotten on the new card face. All right, now the infamous 2-liner and 3-liner. We do have the official errata for these that Gabe updated on the Cactus forums. You can I'll link the official errata list that's on the Cactus forums as well, because a lot of the cards on there are Scrolls cards, so that would just be helpful to be familiar with those, even if you might not see very many of them. This is one that you will see, and the errata makes it function similar to the original, how it actually worked, but not quite exactly identical. So they might actually change the errata for that reason, but basically it's just if rescued, then you you don't, or they don't rescue it, and then you protect it from rescue by or from other players, at least for the 3-liner. Protect from rescue from other players, limit once, and then if or in Land of Redemption, it counts as 2 lost souls, cannot be negated. So basically, you rescue it once, you tap it sideways to indicate that it's been rescued once, and then once you rescue it again, then you can get it. It goes into that player's Land of Redemption, and counts as 2 lost souls there. The tricky thing is that the limit once on the errata applies to each player individually. So remember that even if I tap it and then exchange it to you, then when I attack and if I rescue half, then there's one of the limits then apply, or that then applies to me. I don't actually rescue it in that case with the current errata. That isn't how it used to be. Where it used to be where if I tap it, it was already tapped, I exchange it to you, I can rescue the other half of it, assuming that it's the 2-liner, I guess, because it doesn't have the restriction on being rescued by the same player. So the 2-liner, I could then just rescue the other half, and then we would have shared custody, basically, of the 2-liner, and it would count for 1 lost soul for each of us. Just with how much we've kind of formalized the rules since this card was around, that there's not a good or an easy way to make that work with the current, like wording and stuff, like what the errata should actually be. It's just kind of confusing. Like you could do something with tokens, but then with falling away, it just becomes weird because then, like who actually has the physical card. If I just play falling away on a token, it's not going to be the same as if I play falling away on the actual liner or doubler. The technical names are 2-liner and 3-liner, but Lost Souls is the actual name of the card. Even like it's not the identifier here. You can see it says Lost Souls up in the top, where all the other ones are just Lost Soul. The new reprint is the Lost Souls, or has a Lost Souls identifier, which actually I believe makes it the same unique card as this Lost Soul. It has the same art and everything, so it is technically the same Lost Soul, so you can't use both, which is significant. Basically, the reason that this is such a powerful card, assuming it works the way it's supposed to and everything, which I don't think the errata makes that big of a deal, or like it makes it that big of a deal. If I exchange it to you and I just have to rescue it twice, I think that's fine. I don't think there's going to be a lot of cases of where that will happen, or like I tap it and exchange it to my opponent. It's not a bad strategy, because then if you tap it, exchange it to them, they can't play Son of God on the other half. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of wonky, so we'll see what ends up happening there. But as far as the strategy with this card, usually you want to tap it, let it be rescued once, and then try to underdeck it or discard it with the old burial. But a lot of times, underdeck it or shuffle it, reset it somehow, because the limit once resets if the card is reset to face value in your deck. So that's what makes it very strong. That's what made it, one of the big reasons it was banned, just because it's way too easy to abuse with all the different ways to shuffle and underdeck Lost Souls these days. So that means that there are kind of two different approaches to building around this card where you can try to kind of prevent it or stop it from working by using the Orphan's Lost Soul or Thorn's Lost Soul, using Wander to exchange for it before you attack, using Covet to take it from your opponent's deck. There are a lot of ways to mitigate and to play around it, but also there are a lot of ways to use it, and then if your opponent plays around it, then they just have to, that's just one more thing for them to worry about. And then you can have all of your ways to underdeck Lost Souls that are still good anyway. So Sheol is still good. Wander or Death of Unrighteous is still good. So Suicidal Swine Stampede is still good. So yeah, I think these will be seen a lot. We'll see if they return to the ban list, the reset of the season. But for this season, we've got them. So well, yeah, we've got that. All right, before we get into the characters and enhancements, I want to take a short break to shout out our sponsors over here at Your Turn Games. If you haven't noticed, when I highlight these cards, they do have a little price right above my head right here. And so if you are looking for any of these cards, you want to just buy the cards that you think will be relevant for you. I mean, you could actually just go to the top right, this little what's it called, kebab menu, and click that button, click buy on YTG, and we'll see. It looks like he's got most of the cards in stock, not all of them, $131 for all of these. And then you can go through and be like, oh, I've got that one, I already have that one. He looks like he doesn't have any Mournin' Weeps. He doesn't have the Foretelling Angel. So, those, let's see. Yeah, we can see what 9 cards he has unavailable. So no CBP Lost Soul. And then there are a few that I guess aren't listed on Your Turn Games. So maybe that's just a mistake on the naming of the cards, or like just a mismatch on those. So if you look for it, then maybe you'll still be able to find it. But really great and handy tool if you want to go check this out. And of course, the link to this deck here is going to be in the description, so you can check that out for yourself. But head on over to Your Turn Games. You can pick up all of the cards that you need. So yeah, there's Tribal Elder. It is in here, so you can figure out why. Or like if with those ones, you can just add those ones manually. It's not too many, I guess. But yeah, we'll have to figure out where the mismatch is there. But head on over to Your Turn Games. They've got singles. They've got lots of sealed packs and display boxes product. Looks like there are still some mystery packs left, which Andy has for $35 right now as of the recording of this. So you can go ahead and check those out. And it looks like anything placed this weekend will be shipped on Monday, the 17th. So just keep that in mind. And yeah, head over to Your Turn Games to pick up any or all of these cards plus more. All right, let's go on to our characters and enhancements. I'm going to kind of just go by brigade here because a lot of them are related. So the Genesis offense really gets the most from blue. Who would have thunk? That's what we're looking for. We got Benjamin and Joseph that are both very good for initiative and playing CBN enhancements. And Joseph has some new relevant enhancements that have been printed on the new card face that are going to be good for him to make CBN. So things like Ruben Stormclothes is a good one. It has Joseph in the reference, and I'm sure there are more. I didn't look them all up beforehand, but he also is green, so he gets to play first off of Hidden Treasures. He gets to use Delivered, things like that, and he does protect himself from discard, so that's kind of nice. Protect from Christian Martyr, and then he goes and searches for Storehouse or Goshen. So just one more Joseph to add to the potential viable Josephs that you could be using in your deck. We've got Simeon, who works well with the hand control aspect that Genesis is really leaning into now, and with all the reprints of the Genesis Patriarch Wives, I guess, from Roots 2, I think Simeon will be a very good part of that, better than the Israel's Rebellion reprint, and then Benjamin for CBN Genesis enhancements is pretty good. One that you might see, but probably isn't going to be as common, is Tribal Elder. Just the really the strength of this card is how broad the band is. Banned to one OT human hero, so a lot of times you can use that to just bring in your opponent's heroes. The really the only thing that I think makes him more interesting or playable now is the fact that he's a wilderness hero, and so you can splash him into a wilderness deck and be able to then ban your opponent's Daniel offense or their Joshua offense. Off of your own Moses or something. So Moses, Tribal Elder, and then all of your opponent's characters, which can be pretty good. All right, gold, we've got judges that are going to be making a comeback here. We've got Ehud for some choose the blocker shenanigans, and also interrupts wall of protection. So choose the blocker that gets around wall of protection. Pretty big deal. Also has first strike, but it does have to choose a male evil character. It doesn't have to be a human, so that's kind of nice. You can choose their King of Tyrus and then drop your Ehud's Dagger or something like that. But yeah, very strong ability. It's similar to the new reprinted one, except the choose is a lot more broad. So I think Ehud, this version will get used a lot more than the Roots 2 version, but the Roots 2 version will have its place. Equipping weapon after you're blocked, things like that can be pretty good. Got Jer is kind of the initiative and speed engine for judges. Draw two or get out your judge's seat. The fact that you can search your discard pile for the new judge's seat is kind of cool, because you can just keep on pinging stuff in their territory every turn. The fact that it is draw two or do that, though, it makes it kind of tough to justify if you're just doing that every turn when you could be getting more value from just drawing and getting more resources. But I don't know if you have a way to ban Jer in or something and get more value, or like you're using Angel Under the Oak or something to get your draws in, then I think that's going to be pretty good to just keep on picking off evil characters. If you're using him with like 20 shekels or something, that's going to be pretty good. Samuel, he was one of the other cards that was banned along with the 2 and 3 liner. Or, well, I guess the 2 and 3 liner was banned first. Samuel was banned along with Mourn and Weep after the 2019 or 2020 season, or in 2020, I think. So after the 2019 season, if I'm not mistaken. He negates play abilities. You may search deck for King Saul or David and put in play to draw 2. And Emmanuel first Samuel hero cannot be negated. It doesn't sound really all that bad, except for the part where like King Saul and David were just both very good and very easy to set up, and then also Samuel himself being a judge meant that he could that Angel Under the Oak could exchange to him. So there's just a lot of pieces around him that he was just kind of the center of that made him very good. We've got Isaiah, or moving on to green here, we've got a couple of our major prophets. Isaiah, who makes good Isaiah cards, cannot be negated, including himself, and then also protects purple kings from opponent. Also has some recursion for good Isaiah cards. I think this one, it's similar to some of the other ones as far as like the CBN stuff, except the protecting purple kings from opponent is quite strong. You've got King Hezekiah is a scroll card who can ban to Isaiah, and then Isaiah protects him CBN. You've got Jehoshaphat who can do that as well. So, and especially if you do like David to Jehoshaphat to Isaiah, then David Akkas Refuge, he and Jehoshaphat are now being CBN protected from your opponent. It's protection that cannot be negated. It's pretty good, turns out. You got Ezekiel, who it'll be tough to figure out which one is the best one to use in a deck that wants to use Ezekiel, but he kind of has the same effect of good Ezekiel cards cannot be negated, and then he also recurs Ezekiel cards from discard pile. So cards like these are why we can't now print an Isaiah son of God or Ezekiel son of God because the new Daniel, or the Cloud of Witnesses Daniel, kind of had the same sort of effect of just a good Daniel card, and these guys have the same major prophet theme, I guess, that they were going with, of getting these cards back, doing their recursion, but not including dominance as an exception to the card there. So we'll see if that ever happens and then these get banned or something. But uh, the Ezekiel, I think the fact that good Ezekiel cards cannot be negated is very strong. You can play a lot of good battle winners off of Ezekiel. The downside is that it doesn't work for heroes that are already in battle. So if you do like all your cherubims together and then end it with Ezekiel, Ezekiel isn't going to retroactively make your cherubims cannot be negated, because they've already activated. They need to have that modifier applied when they're played, so when they activate. So I don't know that this one will necessarily be the most used one, but I mean the Prophecies of Christ one makes it so that your Ezekiel characters cannot be negated, but this one's just good Ezekiel cards, so all of your battle winners and stuff as well, which is good. I mean, activate Gideon Zephod to decrease him 0-3, and then you've got a 7-1 Ezekiel with CBN enhancements. It's going to get initiative no matter what, basically, except for like against the worm, I guess. It's going to be good. He also negates play abilities, so he can stop all the weapons, the play first stuff that your opponent's going to be doing on defense. All right, moving on to purple, we've got a few different themes represented here. Abigail is a big one. She just got a reprint, but the reprint doesn't do everything that this one does. This one, well, does everything, and the other one, I think, is a draw or ban to David. So you can draw 3 number of your OT warrior class heroes, and they don't have to be purple, so, whatever brigade. And then you can protect the characters in your territory and lost souls from an opponent's territory from evil cards, which is pretty relevant. Some of the defensive things that we'll be talking about. And then you can ban to David. Also for Samuel character, so the newer King Saul can ban to her. So you can do, your banning chain can include King Saul, then Abigail, then David, and then David to whoever, depending on which David you're using. But yeah, David, Outcast Refuge, or the new David, the Unifier. All of those pretty good. David the Shepherd, even, to go play Throne from your deck. I don't know if he'll really be the one used, but it's possible. There's a lot of good reasons to use Abigail in that style of deck. She was a big part of the Throne decks, a big part of the draw engine, and then also the protection of Lost Souls was fairly relevant in that day and age. All right, Ethiopian Treasure, I mentioned earlier. This is just kind of a generic good or purple good stuff kind of card, where you just get to play the next enhancement card. It says you can also grab a meek enhancement from your deck or discard pile. Probably don't need to, but Philosophy was one that got recurred by ET back in the day. And then Authority of Christ was probably the best buddy with Ethiopian Treasure, but again, Impartial Judgment, not a bad one to play first, if I don't say so myself, if I do say so myself. And I'm sure there are others, and you can ban to Ethiopian Treasure through different means, and so you can get other brigades in battle to be able to play, because you don't have to play it on Ethiopian Treasure, so it doesn't have to be a purple enhancement if you have other characters that you can play stuff on. Then we've got Disciples. I think of the older versions of the Disciples, the ones that are maybe the most usable are James, son of Alpheus, and Thaddeus. Thaddeus being the protect everything from all the little guys or the big guys if you have a lot of good Disciples in play, which really isn't that hard to do. And it cannot be interrupted. So again, with the whole cannot be interrupted protection, it's just a good thing, and it protects cards in play, set aside artifact piles, hands, and decks. So if you thought Meshach was bad, you just wait till this guy. I mean, I guess the upside for Meshach over Thaddeus is that Meshach stops crowd's choice and that kind of stuff as well outside of battle. Forces arise and whatnot, but this guy just, protects from evil characters, so you can't use the Deceiver, you can't use any enhancements to draw, things like that. And then James, son of Alpheus, he's just decent because the new one isn't that special, I guess. Like, you don't have to. James the Younger doesn't get used in that many Disciple decks, and so you can use this one, and the negate special abilities and evil characters and weapons is just decent, and then good initiative. So he's also a good buddy with Angel or with the Authority of Christ here. All right, moving on to red. We just got Azahel in here. Ishmael, I guess I can mention Ishmael and then also Thomas are both on the honorable mentions here. But Ishmael only bans to a red OT hero. I think maybe there's a chance that there's like a red and purple Warriors deck that could work together, but a lot of them don't really play well together. Most of the red guys ban to other red guys. Most of the purple guys just ban to like certain other purple guys. So it's just the crossover isn't huge, but Azahel is one way to cross over, and he's also got to choose the blocker abilities. So you can play your Bravery of David, you can play your Council of Abigail or your Battle Cry to abandon a bunch of heroes. Abandon a Himelech. I probably should have put a Himelech on here, huh? Let's do that. That'll be the 70th card, just to correct my earlier mistake. Unlimited, please. No, not orange. Doesn't have to be a curse. There we go. Himelech the Hittite, I think, definitely could be on this list as well. Basically, the whole like Matthias bounce, and then if you're tossing the next, then they can't stop it. Except in this case, you just can't stop it if David is in play. It cannot be negated. So you just bounce their evil character, protect your Warrior class heroes from capture is kind of nice. And he's also a 1st Samuel hero, so Lord of Armies, anyone? Seems pretty good. So yeah, I think Himelech will definitely be splashed into some decks. Can't believe I forgot about him and I included Ishmael on here somewhere. So yeah, somehow missed that. Also a Canaanite, Deceitful Possessions, maybe. So yeah, there are lots of fun ways to interact with Himelech that I think will be worthwhile, and Azahel just good because pretty broad band ability, and then choose the blocker as an alternative to that is pretty strong. As far as silver, we've got our 2 favorite judges, Angels. Angel the Secret Name is decent. Good judges cards cannot be negated, and then you get to exchange with a judge. So the judge cannot be negated, and then the enhancements that they play. So he's really good buddies with Jer because of the good initiative that Jer has. And then playing all those judges enhancements CBN. However, he only exchanges to hand, deck, or discard pile, so you can't exchange to territory. So you have to use 20 shekels to bounce your judge or something else to underdeck them, or let them get discarded in battle or something like that. And then you can get them back with Angel the Secret Name. Angel Under the Oak, on the other hand, can exchange to hand, deck, territory, or discard pile. Not reserve. There was no reserve at this point. But still very good. Draw 2, get the exchange, CBN protection of Gideon, but you also don't have to go to Gideon. You could just draw 2 and then go to Samuel, who can then draw 2 more. Also, Angel Under the Oak is a prophet, so Victorious Being, draw 1, exchange to Angel Under the Oak, draw 2, Angel Under the Oak, exchange to Samuel, put David in play, draw 2. That's a, +6 right there, just from Victorious Being, and then, whatever David does as well after Samuel bans to him. Crazy how that was a good deck, huh? All right, speaking of good decks, Foretelling Angel is the other silver hero that I think is relevant. This was, of course, a rotation card that was banned before the release of Times to Come for good reason, I think, because the Daniel deck is just going to be very strong. Sorry, E-Man, but like the Daniel decks were very good this season. Did not win nationals nor place in the top 3, but still very strong. And I think Foretelling Angel would have just put them over the edge a little bit. Maybe they could have just let it ride, see what happened, and kind of like they're doing with Unlimited this year. But that's what we're going to be able to explore in Unlimited this year. Is this incredibly busted or just mostly busted? So yeah, you play with your top card face up. While it's a Daniel card, Daniel characters cannot be negated, which that was the part that I think was even more worrisome than the fact that you could just take the Daniel card. You can just add it to your hand whenever. So, I mean, you get to draw 4 cards a turn, your turn and your opponent's turn, for additional cards. And assuming you have all Daniel cards or mostly Daniel cards, or ways to shuffle your deck so that you can put a Daniel card on top. But the fact that your Daniel characters cannot be negated while it's a Daniel card is just so good. And Foretelling Angel itself cannot be negated. So, yeah, it just makes defenses incredible. Works really well, of course, with the Daniel offenses because, it gets around accusers and confusion of mind, all that jazz. Anybody who's trying to interrupt Meshach before, drawing their cards and playing the next or something like that, crazy good. That's definitely going to be a deck. So just straight Daniel with a bunch of ways to get Foretelling Angel early, and it seems like it'll be fairly easy to do that. So yeah, I'm excited to see where that goes. All right, my personal favorite addition. This guy maybe could have been an honorable mention as well, but he's near and dear to my heart, so it's my video. I'm going to do what I want. Joida, son of Eliashib. If Zerubbabel's temple is in play, you can search this card pile for an Offering Your Feast enhancement and add it to hand or battle. Another play first ability. What did I tell you? This was part of the OG Posties deck. He is a post-exilic hero. He's a Zerubbabel's Temple High Priest, and he can play Feast of Booths from your discard pile, which, is pretty easy to get there. You just have to play it in your territory during your prep phase, draw a couple cards. It goes to your discard pile, and then you do your big posty banning chain, including Zerubbabel, and then end it with this guy, play Feast of Booths from your discard pile. Feast of Booths lets you draw a few more cards if they have more evil cards to banish, and then you can play an enhancement from your reserve on your Meek Zerubbabel in battle. Let's just say, for example, Impartial Judgment seems like a pretty good one. There are other enhancements that could be useful. You could play Acts of Solomon into something. We'll talk about that in a moment here. But lots of options to be able to play on Zerubbabel, and this is repeatable. You don't have to use awesome things to play the first. You can just do this every turn because Feast of Booths keeps going back to your discard pile. And so as long as you have more enhancements in your reserve to be able to play, you can just keep doing this. I'm excited for this guy. What can I say? I think it's going to be fun to try that out again. All right, moving on to the enhancements. Back in gold here. Sorry, there were no blue enhancements. Most of the good ones have already been reprinted, so it doesn't really matter. Samuel's Edict, we can talk about maybe that one and Bravery of David kind of at the same time. They both do very similar things. Negate an evil card, discard an evil character, cannot be negated under certain circumstances. The fact that they don't have to negate the same thing they discard is very good, because if your opponent puts you in special initiative, you can negate the enhancement that puts you in special initiative and then discard the evil character, and it cannot be negated if played on Samuel or a judge with no special ability. So Gideon, perhaps, as he's protected by Angel of the Oak. Yeah, very strong. It was a very commonly used enhancement. Bravery of David cannot be negated if David is in play, so a little easier to make that one CBN, except there can only be one hero in battle to get the discard. If the only hero in battle is warrior class, you may discard an evil character. So very similar, but different strategies involved there. Acts of Solomon, an interesting card because it doesn't really seem that great at face value, except for the fact that it just doesn't work the way that it's written, because the clarifying text of place new card in hand is technically a separate ability that was thought to be clarifying text when it was printed. So it says search your draw pile and exchange this card with another good enhancement. So if you complete that part of the ability, you exchange with, let's say, Samuel's Edict. Samuel's Edict goes to battle, because that's where Acts of Solomon is, and that's how exchanges work. So you get an evil card, discard an evil character, and then after that completes, you finish Acts of Solomon, placing the new card in your hand. So you get to use Samuel's Edict again. Seems pretty good. Wheel within a wheel. Just an angel tutor, which with all the angels that you're going to want to be playing, like Angel of the Oak, Foretelling Angel, Victorious Being, Captain of the Host, you go and get that angel, put it in play, place it on your angel, protect it from opponent's dominance. I think E-Man might be excited for this one because you can go get as Michael. Oh man, talking too much. can go as Michael and then protect him from Grapes of Wrath. Seems good. Dirty of Christ, we're going to talk about that one. It's kind of the same as the new one, except it cannot be negated by anybody, and it's symmetrical, so it hits your evil characters as well. I think it will be seen in some decks that are not using the new one, or like not playing Disciples or something, but still playing Purple Warriors. It's going to be good. I think it will definitely be usable there. Pentecost. I wanted to highlight this because the mass set-aside enhancements, or just set-aside enhancements in general, did not used to be territory class. There's just a rule that says that you can play set-aside enhancements during your preparation and discard phases, similar to how territory class enhancements function. They were kind of like the territory class before territory class was cool, and they do not count toward your one territory class enhancement per turn limit. So you can play Pentecost without having to use up your one territory class enhancement. Soldier's Prayer, Zadok Solomon, Consider the Lilies, they all kind of fall into a similar category of tutors for your other enhancements. And they shuffle themselves. Well, Zadok Solomon doesn't, but the Soldier's Prayer and Consider the Lilies shuffle themselves. And so you can keep on resetting them, or if you eventually go to discard pile, then they just exchange to there. But yeah, they can recur an enhancement once, and then they can get it back, or they can get it for you initially, however many times. So Soldier's Prayer into Bravery of David is a big one. You just use the Soldier's Prayer once you redraw it to get Bravery of David back from your discard pile, and do the same old Azahel, choose the blocker, play Bravery of David to take him out. CBN kind of thing. Seems good. So it's one of the other themes of scroll cards that I think are important to pay attention to. You've got the play first, you've got CBN. There are a lot of cannot be negated effects that are either just natively on cards or easy to fit the qualifications for in certain themes. So Bravery of David and same as Edict being certain themes. All right. Evil cards, as far as black, I think Philistine Armor Bearer is really the only noteworthy character that hasn't gotten a reprint or an upgraded version. Philistine Armor Bearer has gotten a reprint, but it is technically different, or functionally different than this version. This one can exchange with any evil Philistine in your deck or discard pile. The other one can only exchange with a unique Philistine. I don't know if there are enough generic Philistines to really make this one worth playing, but it's possible, so I wanted to include him on here. And I'm just going to do the enhancements of the same brigade at the same time, just because it's a little easier. We do have some Philistine support with Philistine Chariot and Horses. We've got all of the horses on here, so Egyptian horses, Naaman's Chariot and Horses, and 2,000 horses. They're all going to be relevant. They're all a lot easier to use than, or to, I guess, trigger than some of the newer ones, like foreign horses. Your opponent draws and searches a lot, so you can get a foreign horses trigger pretty easily, but Naaman's Chariot and Horses just has to be used by a unique character. Egyptian horses used by an Egyptian, Philistine Chariot and Horses used by a Philistine, so like they just work well within their themes. 2,000 horses can be used by anybody that's pale green, I guess. So you can, the 2K horses kind of being the OG here. Well, I'll go ahead and just talk about it right now because we're talking about all the horses. The Rabshakeh, you can taunt, you can equip 2,000 horses from your reserve, you can play Confusion, you can play Death and Righteous. I don't know if you really want to do that, to use your attack to do that, but you can just play first on your evil characters without there being a hero in battle. So there's that as an option, kind of similar to the whole like Snatch Spear thing. I mean, you could play, was it Isaac Deceived, or no, I don't know, there's some like Choose the Rescuer pale green enhancement that you could play, set up the same sort of thing as the Snatch Spear, and then just keep on playing a bunch of evil enhancements if you want to figure something out with that. I've done that combo in rotation. It could be even more fun in Unlimited. We've also got new Gibeonite, or old Gibeonite Trickery, not the oldest Gibeonite Trickery, which is also on this list, but just an evil and the battle ability, and it's a little bit easier to pull off in the Canaanite theme, I think, than the newer one, which still has an end the battle ability, but and it ends in a stalemate, which can be nice if your characters are small. But this one cannot be negated, and you don't have to have a Canaanite in their territory. You can just have a Canaanite in battle, and you get to use it. And then A-Bomb. I don't know if this will actually see a whole lot of use, but I think in a deck where you've got the Abomination of Desolation artifact, and you've got the Roots 2 Priest of Zeus, you could definitely use this as well, try to play it in battle to place in your opponent's territory, and then you're just demolishing their territory every time they draw a card, whether it's by their ability or yours, like something like Meeting the Messiah, which is on the honorable mentions here. All right, brown, we've got King Rehoboam for some side battle shenanigans. I think that can be decent. There can be some fun little combos there. And then we've got Uzzah as a chump block, kind of the chump block, the OG Woman of Thebes, if you will. Just have to discard Uzzah and an artifact from your hand or artifact pile, so not just an active artifact like the new Uzzah that also has Unity and also only protects Lost Souls, or OT Lost Souls. This one, and also stays in battle. This one, you just discard him and an artifact right away, protect Lost Souls, battle's over pretty much. So we've got Give Me a Trickery and a Hammond's Plot as the brown enhancements that I think we'll see some play in this format. Ahasuerus to play Give Me a Trickery. It gives him 2 in the battles now, so he's got Honor Thy Enemy and Give Me a Trickery that he can just play immediately from deck if your opponent has board advantage. And then Hammond's Plot being very similar to the new one, except you have to tear this one, and it cannot be negated by anybody, though. So it's very strong card, kind of a funny card. The fact that you have to tear it after its use. You could play Hammond's Gallows, I guess, and not have to tear it. But you do get to replace it in between rounds at tournaments now, so you can use it in every game. I guess I kind of skipped over More Than Weep here. This is the other banned rotation card that I think we'll see use in Unlimited. It was very abusable, just being able to skip each player's next battle phase, or just each opponent if you play it during battle. The fact that it was so splashable because it's a multi-brigade evil enhancement was very big, and then also the fact that you can play it during like the last round, especially in multiplayer. It was very not great, I guess. But I mean, even in 2-player, like if I go first and then they come around, they call last round, and so it's like, oh, well, your opponent gets one more turn, I can just play Mourn and Weep, be like, okay, well, if you got one more turn, you're not going to be able to attack, and it's not going to negatively impact me. And so it can lead to a little bit of negative play experience, and I think that's the majority, or like a major reason why it was banned, but also is just used in so many decks. Easy to fit in pretty much wherever. Playing it in battle is very good. We'll see that when we talk about gold here. I've got Besieging the City is a very similar effect. So it'll definitely be around, so be ready for that. Unfortunately, the Bethlehem from LOC that I tried to print to combat cards like Mourn and Weep doesn't actually work against it because the card's not in play still to be negated by Bethlehem. I mean, it was banned right after I created that card, but so I mean, it kind of worked, but not actually. You just get to draw 1 though, which is kind of fun. All right, Crimson, we've got King Belshazzar, Nebuchadnezzar, and 7 Sons of Sceva. King Belshazzar to get back Belshazzar's Banquet, which just got a reprint in Roots 2 to be even better. It just discards your Evil Human to protect Lost Souls, except it cannot be prevented if used by Babylonian, which is not something that we see on very many of those jump block kind of cards. So that's pretty cool. King Belshazzar being able to just get it back, I think, is going to be pretty useful. And the fact that the reprint of Belshazzar is specific to like Meek Daniel Lost Souls, just specific to Daniel Lost Souls, right? I don't know if they have to be Meek, but he's kind of a soul hide character, which Babylonians aren't doing a whole lot of right now. Maybe they will in Unlimited, I don't know, but probably not. And so this King Belshazzar is pretty easy to fit into your deck. Nebuchadnezzar, this one is interesting. One of the strongest evil characters in the Scrolls meta, or just those the pre-rotation meta. Says if no Daniel heroes in play, you can go get an OT Crimson card and add it to hand or battle. It cannot be negated, and that is a very strong ability. However, Daniel is probably going to be pretty strong or very popular. We got Foretelling Angel in this meta, so I think with Between Times to Come, Foretelling Angel, all those things, Daniel is going to be around a lot, so Nebuchadnezzar might just do nothing. So I don't know if it will be worth using this one over the other versions of Nebuchadnezzar if there's a chance that this one just whiffs in certain matchups, and if those certain matchups happen more often than most. Seven Sons of Sceva did get a reprint, but this one is, I think, significant not because it negates and discards 3 nails, but because it negates and discards. Well, just discards, actually. I really wish that the new the new one still had a discard ability somehow. Negating and discarding 3 nails wouldn't be all that relevant because 3 nails doesn't stay active, nor can it be negated. The new one, anyway. But the fact that this one has a discard ability makes it relevant because you can have it in your reserve, and then Wages of Sin can grab it from your reserve in a pinch. So it just makes this one technically better. I kind of wish the new one. Well, I don't know what discard ability it could have, but maybe if it exchanged to discard pile or reserve, that would kind of be cool to set it apart. So that in this format, I would just want to use the new one over the old one. But if you're not playing Wages, it's not really that big of a deal. Gold, yeah, there were no Crimson enhancements really of note. Dream, I think, yeah, Dream was in my honorable mentions, but we've got Mask, and you can do both. But yeah, anyway, Gold, not one that I really expected to see a whole lot for, just because in Unlimited, I don't know how much Gold will really be wanted to play, because Egyptians they're getting enough stuff now where they can, in Pale Green, where they can just fully shift over to there. But I think Herods will still be decent. And so they're going to have some enhancements that they'll be able to play. And if you do see someone playing Egyptians, maybe there's a gold pale green splash that you can do. Pharaoh's Baker and Dreaming Pharaoh are going to be the ones that you would see, or at least some of them, just because of the speed drawing aspect. Besieging the City is also decent if you're playing low number characters that want to get initiative. Besieging and Failed Objective are both good as far as like chump blocks go. Besieging is kind of nice even just on turn 1. Even if you don't have a battle winner or something, you basically just play this and it's a battle winner for next turn. Saves you a turn by letting them not draw cards and also not make a rescue attempt on their next turn. There is an errata on this, but I think it's may not draw cards by except by abilities you control or something like that. So it no longer works to play Besieging the City and then play Mayhem on your opponent's turn to stop them from being able to redraw 6 cards. Yeah, all right, we talked about the horses. We got Winter's Forgotten, kind of falls in the same category as Give Me a Trickery here, and also Forgotten History, whereas just a 0-4 end the battle. Does not end the battle in a stalemate, so you do still have to have the right numbers. And then also Wonders Forgotten and Forgotten History let you banish some cards from your opponent's discard pile too, which can be relevant if they've got a Son of God in there already, or some other cards that they're recurring or liable to recur. So those can both be good, especially with these play first evil weapons. All right, in gray, we've got Emperor Vitellius and Proud Pharisee, both of which have gotten decent reprints in recent years. However, they're not as good as these versions. Emperor Vitellius, you get to draw X cards, no limit, and cannot be negated by a good card. You don't have to have another Roman in play, and there's no limit to the X. So if they have no other righteous in play, you get to draw 9 cards. So kind of like an Outsiders type of effect, except on an Emperor, so some relevant identifiers there. But you can't underdeck stuff if they have board advantage. Proud Pharisee, another play first thing, and also you get to draw some cards. I don't know what cases you would want to use, like the the new one versus this one, like what defenses you're actually going to be using in gray. But if you're just kind of doing like gray good stuff, you probably use this one because Proud Pharisee to just go ahead and play an enhancement like Tenants Kill the Sun or just a hireling. Plenty of others that I'm sure. Balaam's Disobedience. Yeah, there are plenty of enhancements in gray that are just good that you want to be able to play before your opponent has the opportunity to play Angel of the Lord, or if they just have regular initiative, you can subvert that. Damsel with the Spirit of Divination kind of falls under the similar category of she has a decent reprint, but technically not as good because there's no limit on this one. Of course, there are other reasons to play the new one, such as if you want the draw to be optional, because if if your opponent has a Rain Becomes Dust active or something like that, and you block with Damsel the Spirit of Divination, basically just says mill yourself however many cards equal to the number of good brigades that they have in their hand, because there's no optional aspect of Damsel's ability. So as long as their hand is not protected, your deck is not protected, and drawing is not prevented, or her ability is not prevented, then you're going to be able to draw cards, or you have to draw cards. And you also don't have the option of like playing a New Testament human hero from deck instead, or something like that, whatever's on the new one. I don't know if I've ever actually seen that part of the ability used, so maybe not a big deal, but something to consider. And last but not least on our list here is Assyrian Siege Army. If blocking another Assyrian is in play, you can negate and discard an artifact, single color site, or fortress in play or set aside area cannot be negated. So the fact that this takes care of a lot of different types of cards and a lot of support and utility stuff that your opponent could be playing, the fact that it cannot be negated, both make it very strong, better than the Assyrian Siege Army reprint. The reprint can take care of things like Good Seed or other placed enhancements in your opponent's territory. However, this one I think is just generally like better. Even though the targets are slightly more limited, the CBN is just a really big deal. And maybe I'm overestimating it relative to what it used to be compared to what it is now. Like, this used to be very, very good, especially in Type 2, because it's generic. You could have a bunch of them, and then you just put some horses on them, and you could just destroy all your opponent's utility stuff. But so I guess maybe now in this unlimited format, I don't know if it will be relevant enough, if Assyrians will be relevant enough to be usable in Type 1. We'll see. But yeah, that's I think still worthy of being in the slot here. These are all the honorable mentions. I'm not going to go through them, but you can look at them and think about, okay, why they might have been good at some point and maybe aren't as good now in Unlimited. And some of them are just like, King Rehoboam. It's the same card, but in crimson instead of brown. So for some of them, it's reasons like that. Isaiah's Call is good, but there's a new dominant that does the same thing, and it's just generally better, I think. But maybe there are cases where you don't want to use the dominant slot, or maybe you want to have both to kind of duplicate those effects. And then there are some cheeky cards like Jehoram the Priest, which is interesting because there's a new Book of the Law that's actually good, and so maybe there are some cheeky things that you can do with Jehoram and other effects like that. So I know I'm going to be messing around with stuff like that a little bit just to have some fun in the format, because I do think that there are some fun things. But yeah, you can go ahead and check out the list here and let me know what you think. If you're if you're a big Unlimited or Scrolls OG, and you think that there's something that I missed, feel free to put that in a comment down below for people to see. But I think that this is a pretty exhaustive list of the cards that would be good for you to be familiar with. And so I'm going to share this list and get people excited and interested for Unlimited. I don't know how long the signups are going till, but there is currently a Redemption Grand Prix that's going to be starting with the unlimited format, where you might be seeing a lot of these cards, or at least some of them. And so, if you are interested in joining that using this app to play games, then you can go ahead and sign up for that. Contact Flooded Red on Discord, or you can contact me and I can plug you into the right place. But there is a separate Discord server for managing those Grand Prix, and it's just a once a week or one game a week tournament where you just have to schedule with your opponent to figure out a time that it works for both of you to play during that week, and then you're paired up with the next opponent the next week, and it's just a tournament that keeps on going. Usually it's 4 rounds of Swiss, and then there's a top cut with the top 4 players after those 4 rounds, and then shortly after that, a new Redemption Grand Prix will be starting up. I think Jay wants to do at least two unlimited Grand Prix this season, and this is going to be one of them. So we're starting off with some fun here. So hopefully you guys are at least somewhat, at least, well, if you're not interested in unlimited, at least you're not as scared of it as you may have been previously. 70 cards, it's really not a whole lot compared to what you're already familiar with from the rotation card pool. Getting used to these isn't that bad. Sure, there are a lot of weird scrolls cards that don't function the way that they're written very well, and you can check out the errata list if you want to, but a lot of those you probably won't run into. A lot of these are fairly straightforward, with the exception of the liners and maybe a few others, but I think in general it's not that difficult to understand. So thank you all for watching, and we will catch you all next time, hopefully playing some Unlimited.